Number one, students need to know they don't need to understand every word. And reason two, it wastes time. It's a waste of class time. Because you are trained professionals, not walking dictionaries. And remember as well, questions like, are there any words we don't understand? It's like saying to the students, okay students, please waste everybody's time. Because it's much easier for students, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? And they don't need to work. So, never start these reading comprehension lessons with a big vocabulary lesson. Okay? Not necessary, not productive. Any questions so far? If anybody would like to see any pictures then of Frovens and Ginterbands and Farpoints, then talk to Pat Atchak, who sees them every time he climbs a mountain. Now, sometimes the students don't need to know the meaning, and sometimes it's enough if they know it's a verb or an adjective or a noun, and they can still get the correct answer. And let's look at an example from structure and written expression. This is on the bottom of your handout, on that page. Can you just look at the answers to those questions and remember with this, find the mistake. This is the first part, structure part. Remember, when you're going through the answers to these structured questions, TOEFL doesn't care how the students got the answer. All TOEFL cares is they got the correct answer. But if you want to push the students further, rather than just say, number one, A, correct, you can ask them, why is it wrong? And also, can they correct it? And you're taking them beyond what TOEFL needs. TOEFL only needs step one. But you can push the students to go a little bit further and to say, why is it wrong and what's the correction? And it's kind of useful for general grammar awareness. Okay, number two. All agree?
Yeah.
Okay, why? So, yes, the verb needs to be followed by a noun phrase. What's the correction? Yeah, reduction is the easiest way. What's the problem word? What's the proper vocabulary in number two that will confuse students?
Yeah, between preposition can be the cases of preposition. Some students tend to answer C. In can be changed to of, and that's wrong anyway.
Yes, they also get confused with A. Why does A confuse them?
Whether it's a noun or a verb or
that's
adjective.
right. A confuses them because they always think that credit is a noun. And this credit here as a verb is no connection with borrowing money. So, it's used to ascribe to, say, a good thing is caused by. So, for example, I credit my students' reading habit for their good vocabulary. So, this confuses them because it's unfamiliar. Okay, number three. Why?
Worldwide attention.
Yes, so because worldwide is the adjective, then we need
Noun.
the noun. And if is a classic standard pattern for adjectives as well. Things like transitive, attentive, passive, active. And finally, number 4.
B. B.
It is delta, but why?
We need a noun.
What's the noun?
Rarity.
Well done. If you do this question with students, by the way, they very often they can find that it's A, that it's delta, but they don't know the word rarity, because the word rarity is a rarity. So a rarity, something that not very often happens. So that's an example then of structured written expression where the students, rarity, R-A-R-I-T-Y, where from the part of speech, the students can answer the question. Okay, now, away from that then, students, learn and remember new vocabulary. Any suggestions?
I think we can give them like one word or similar word which has the other form of noun, adjective, adverb.
Okay, yes. You can give them specific examples of different parts of speech, and you can focus on the classic errors as well. Again, success and succeed. Why does success and succeed cause so many problems for students here? Basically, yes, it's because of the word success in Indonesian. It just causes confusion. Then, of course, there's things like mensukseskan or menyukseskan, which doesn't exist in English. You need to say something like make something successful. There's no one-word translation, so it causes all kinds of problems. The other problem as well is, of course, they see things like what's the company? It's Comforter Spring Beds. The problem is, this makes no sense. The English is wrong. Remember, if we comfort somebody, you can comfort a person, so, yeah, that's right, oh, I'm sorry, oh, that's okay. So if somebody's failed their exam, or their cat has died, so we make them feel better and we show sympathy. So this is wrong English, it makes no sense. So students are sometimes exposed to strange English. Sorry? Okay, yeah, there's the problem with McDonald's, isn't there? There's the I'm loving, where we don't use loving as a transitive verb, yes.
It's a branding promotion.
Sorry?
It's a promotion, so promotion can be anything.
It's like music, though, isn't it? You know, the lyrics of songs.
Yes, you don't.
You know, but if you go back to our era, with, you know, I can't get no satisfaction. You know, Mick Jagger's mother would slap him if she heard that, because it's terrible English. So, students do see examples of wrong English. My favourite at the moment, and this is a new one, anyway,
Yeah.
it's written everywhere.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
It's a brand new error.
Yeah.
Where's that come from?
Millennial.
It's come from the millennials. Why are they saying it? Yes, they heard it's not worth it, They think that ed ending is pronounced it, so they write it as this. So, again, sometimes, there's examples of wrong English that doesn't help. That makes teachers like us want to go crazy. However, basically, what we need to do, now, please tell me if you can read this, maybe it's too small.
Way too small.
Okay. This is what I said to you 2 days ago as well. Students who read have better vocabulary. It doesn't matter what they read, as long as it's in English. To be honest, we'd be happy if they read Indonesian language, wouldn't we? So, students who read have better vocabulary. So many times when I'm teaching exam preparation, a student uses a really good word. Where did you hear that word? Oh, I read it in an article. It doesn't matter what they read. Their hometown on Wikipedia, the fan page of the K-pop star, it doesn't matter. Okay? It all helps. However, are you sure it's clear enough? Okay. Vocabulary needs to be learned in context. Why do students so often say, for example, I like listening music? Why do they say that? Why do they make that mistake? What did the teacher teach them? The teacher basically taught them that Mendengar is listen. But it's not, it's listen to. So, vocabulary needs to be in context. Students need to know complete utterances. Because we don't use these words on their own, do we? If what are your hobbies? Listening. It makes no sense. So listening to music. So students need to know the context. Again, I'm looking my friend. They need to know looking at, listen to. They need to know the other words that go with it. Prefixes and suffixes are very useful. We'll talk about those in a minute. Basically, actually we'll jump to those, yes. Students need to use the vocabulary. Okay? What's this in English? Okay, now, it doesn't come instantly, does it? You need to think. Why? Why do students, if you go to any elementary school, on the wall there's a picture of somebody and it has foot and leg, head, ear, elbow. But here we are. Many students, they don't know the word for elbow, but it's elementary English. Why don't they know it?
They didn't learn.
They didn't?
No.
Oh, well, okay, but why not?
Primary.
Yeah, we don't use it. It's a basic word we don't use. When you see your friend, you don't say, hello, how are your elbows? Oh, that's good. Oh, yes, my elbows are nice. We don't use it, so nobody remembers it. Oh, maybe in Lombok they say that, sorry. Lombok greeting. But it's more relevant now, isn't it, because we do that. But students need to reuse vocabulary or they forget it. Which means, even if it's TOEFL preparation, you can still have speaking activities. You can still have vocabulary races, vocabulary competitions, that kind of thing, where they try to think of synonyms, where they brainstorm synonyms and antonyms. But students need to use the words or they forget them. Now, just a couple of other things. Just a minute. Prefixes and suffixes. Now, nearly every TOEFL preparation book, you know the 3-kilogram books, many of them, I think Longman definitely has this, in the back they have these activities where the students practice prefixes and suffixes. What does geo mean before a word? Okay, for example, so, yep, okay. So, for example, yep, demographic, democracy.
People.
Yes, people, yes.
Democracy.
Nothing's working. Yeah.
Decoration.
Decoration is something different, actually. Decade. So words like decade, decimeter, decibel, and December.
So amber.
Yes. What's a decade? How many years? 10. Dec or des means 10. So a decade is 10 years. December originally was the 10th month before the calendar was changed. So des means 10. Decibel is the unit of power. Decibel just means 1 decibel just means 10 times stronger. Ology? Science or study? Because astrology isn't a science, but yes, so study of something. So theology, study of the earth. Any more ologies?
Embryology. Embryology.
Okay. So all of those things, yeah. So biology, study of life. And sorry? Yes, the other one? Phobia.
Islamophobia. A fear of something.
Yes, that's right. So irrational fear of something. So you can have some kind of activity where the students, just have students in groups, 5 minutes just at the beginning of class or the end of class on a Friday. And the students, you can have this kind of activity where the students write as many words as they can that begin or end with these things. And as we've seen also in your beautiful handout, there are these words from the word use. So, so these all mean things in a slightly different way. So remember then, from the root word, with prefixes and suffixes can help students to expand their vocabulary quite quickly. Yeah. And this is something, of course, that students are familiar with from their own language as well as from English. What's the difference between unused and disused?
Unused is not used. Yeah. Used is disused.
Yes, previously used, that's right. So unused is just general, nobody uses it. Disused, it was used before, but not anymore. Do you have any disused things in your office?
Fax.
Yeah, the fax machine.
Typewriter.
Yeah. Except the police, by the way. The police, I think, still use typewriters because they need to send the reports around the country. I don't know this because I've been arrested, it's just somebody told me. So, again, unused, it could be something that's new, that's still in the wrapper. So, there are slightly different meanings because of these prefixes and suffixes. And finally, of course, technology. And these are on the beautiful handout. There are lots and lots of apps. If you go to Google Play or Apple Store, and Google TOEFL, basically there are still many of these applications because I think partly because TOEFL is still quite popular here and because a lot of Indonesians are smart at making apps. So there's good synergy there. So I think there are probably people all across Indonesia making these apps. These are on your beautiful handout, I hope. Oh yes, they are. So, vocabulary is important for all parts of TOEFL. Students need to speak or they need to speak so they continue using these words so they become familiar. And vocabulary activities can be a fun way to begin or end a class. If it's in the middle of a class during the fasting month on a Friday afternoon, then a quick vocabulary game where students think of as many words beginning with geo kind of just changes the pace of the class. Reading, if you're teaching reading, again, do that kind of fun activity to break up the class. Okay, any questions about vocabulary?
English offers.
I'm sorry?
English offers any GRA, GPS.
Yes. Yes, it covers everything.
1.5 million.
The advantage, of course, with apps is it's the millennials like them, and it does mean they can study in their own time. And of course, it means they can look at them when they're on the bus, but hopefully not while they're on their motorbikes. Okay. Any final questions before the coffee break?
Yeah, I think in reading, students must be fed with some knowledge before having some reading because the students' knowledge can be very limited. Remember when we talked about mountains, the student knowledge may be limited by the mountains, so maybe panic, and then they may not know the terms used in mountain things like that.
Okay, but remember again, we need to remind the students over and over again that the unfamiliar topics, there are always unfamiliar topics, and that all of the language, all of the factual content is in the text. So if they're familiar with mountains or not, the information is still there. Because TOEFL tests English, it doesn't test geology, for example.
I know, I mean, in a classroom, I think it's better for the teacher to give some handouts about reading material, so in order to enrich the knowledge and everything.
Okay, although knowledge is not as important as the skill of reading, because it's not possible to recommend a reading that covers every conceivable TOEFL topic.
Yeah, but at least vocabularies are there, in some reading.
Okay, but again, TOEFL doesn't test technical vocabulary. It's all general vocabulary. So, there's not going to be a test of students' understanding of sedimentary and igneous rocks. So, the important thing is that students read about something that interests them, but it's impossible to provide reading for every possible TOEFL topic unless we tell them to go to Wikipedia and start with A and finish with Z. But then there are millions of articles and they will be very old. The important thing, is that students need to read. It doesn't matter what they read.
That's what I mean.
Okay, yes, absolutely push them to read, yes. And remember, it's like I said, ask the students, okay, your homework, read something and tell me something in the next lesson that you learned that you didn't know before from reading. And then, who has the most interesting fact? And then, you go around the class. It needs to be quite quick. So you could start off, for example, if there are 30 or 40 students, you don't want to go, because suddenly the lesson's over. So they need to be in groups. Groups of 5, talk to each other, tell your friends what one thing you learned, and then the group decides what's the most interesting thing, and then they tell the class. So, make use of group work, or of course if you're teaching online, breakout rooms. Okay, shall we stop for coffee?
Yeah.
Okay, you have 900 seconds.
900 seconds.